Every night, under the dim glow of an old street lamp, 12-year-old Amara would quietly settle into her makeshift bed beneath the swings at Lincoln Park. It wasn't much, just a thin blanket she had scavenged from a donation bin and a flashlight that flickered when its batteries were low, but it was hers. To most people passing by during the day, Amara blended in with other kids who played on the jungle gym or slid down the rusty slide. But no one stayed long enough to notice what happened after dark. Amara's life hadn't always been this way. Once upon a time, she lived in a small apartment with her mother, a woman full of laughter and stories about faraway places. They didn't have much, but they had each other, or so Amara thought. One evening, her mother left for work and never came back. Days turned into weeks, then months, until Amara realized she was truly alone. With nowhere else to go, she wandered, the streets eventually finding solace in the quiet corners of Lincoln Park. The park became both her refuge and her prison. By day, she tried to blend in as just another child playing outside, though hunger often gnawed at her stomach. She avoided eye contact with adults, fearing they might ask too many questions. At night, she curled up beneath the swings, listening to the distant hum of traffic and the occasional chirping of crickets. Sometimes tears slipped down her cheeks as she stared at the stars, wondering why her life had unraveled so quickly. Other times, she clutched her worn-out notebook close to her chest, flipping through pages filled with scribbles of dreams that felt impossible now. Someday, she whispered to herself, I'll find a place where I belong. Unbeknownst to Amara, Officer Marcus Hayes often patrolled the area late into the night. A veteran cop with over 15 years on the force, Marcus carried his own burdens. His wife had passed away 2 years earlier after a long illness, leaving him hollow inside. Since then, he poured himself into his work, hoping the long hours would drown out the ache of loss. Yet something about Lincoln Park always tugged at him. Maybe it was the quiet stillness interrupted only by the rustling leaves, or maybe it was the memories of happier times spent here with his daughter when she was younger. One chilly autumn evening, as Marcus drove slowly through the deserted park, his headlights caught a glimmer of movement near the playground. Squinting, he saw a tiny figure huddled beneath the swings. At first, he assumed it was a homeless adult seeking shelter, but as he stepped out of his patrol car and approached cautiously, his breath caught in his throat. This wasn't an adult. It was a child. A young girl, no older than 10 or 11, wrapped in a threadbare blanket, sleeping soundly despite the cold. Marcus stood frozen for a moment, his heart heavy with emotions he couldn't quite name. He thought about waking her, asking questions, doing his job, but something stopped him. Instead, he watched silently, his mind racing with thoughts of his own daughter, now grown and living across the country. He wondered how anyone could leave a child like this, exposed and vulnerable, in a world so harsh. As the wind picked up, sending a shiver through the trees, Marcus made a decision. He needed to know more about this girl, and perhaps in helping her, he might begin to heal himself. Little did either of them know, their paths were about to intertwine in ways neither could have imagined. For Amara, the nights spent alone in the park were about to change forever, and for Marcus, this encounter would awaken parts of his heart he thought were long buried. Marcus approached cautiously, his boots crunching softly against the gravel path. His flashlight beam wavered slightly as he aimed it toward the small figure beneath the swings. "Hey there," he said gently, kneeling down to appear less intimidating. Startled, Amara bolted upright, clutching her backpack tightly to her chest like a shield. Her wide eyes darted around, searching for an escape route, but she was cornered, trapped between the swing set and this stranger in uniform. "It's okay," Marcus reassured her quickly, holding up one hand to show he meant no harm. "I'm not here to hurt you. My name is Officer Hayes. What's yours?" Amara hesitated, her grip on the backpack tightening even more. She didn't trust easily anymore. Months of living on her own had taught her that people were unpredictable, often dangerous. But something about the man's voice, a mix of authority and kindness, made her pause. Still, she remained silent, her lips pressed into a thin line. "You don't have to tell me your name if you don't want to," Marcus continued softly, lowering himself further so he was closer to her level. But I do need to know why you're out here all alone. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The only sounds were the distant hum of traffic and the occasional rustle of leaves stirred by the cool night breeze. Finally, Amara whispered, barely audible, I don't have anywhere else to go. Her words hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. He felt his throat tighten as he studied her face. The dark circles under her eyes, the dirt smudged across her cheeks, the way her small frame seemed to shrink further into itself with every passing second. This wasn't just some runaway teenager acting out or rebelling against parents. This was a child who had been abandoned, left to fend for herself in a world that rarely showed mercy. I see, Marcus said after a long pause, his voice thick. With emotion he struggled to hide. How long have you been staying here? Amara shrugged, avoiding his gaze. A while. Do you have family nearby? Someone I can call for you? He asked, though deep down he already suspected the answer. She shook her head vigorously, her braids swaying with the motion. No. Just me. The simplicity of her response broke something inside Marcus. He thought about his own daughter, now grown and living hundreds of miles away. How could anyone leave a child like this? How could the world fail someone so young and innocent? He wanted to ask more questions, to understand how things had gotten this bad, but he could see the exhaustion etched into Amara's features. She looked like she hadn't slept properly in weeks or eaten well in longer. Okay, Marcus said finally, forcing himself to sound calm despite the storm brewing inside him. Listen, I'm not going to take you anywhere tonight. Not unless you feel unsafe. But I'd like to help you. Would that be okay? Amara blinked at him, unsure what to say. Help wasn't something she was used to receiving. Most adults either ignored her or scolded her for loitering too long in public spaces. But this man, this officer, seemed different. There was no judgment in his eyes, only concern. After a long moment, she nodded hesitantly. Okay. Relieved? Marcus smiled faintly. Good. Let's start with something simple. Are you hungry? Her stomach answered before she could, growling loudly enough to make her blush. Marcus chuckled softly, the sound warm and genuine. I'll take that as a yes. Wait here, I'll be right back. He returned to his patrol car and rummaged through the trunk, pulling out a granola bar and a bottle of water he kept for emergencies. When he handed them to Amara, she accepted them cautiously, mumbling a quiet thank you before tearing open the wrapper. As she ate, Marcus watched her carefully, his mind racing. He knew protocol dictated he report this situation immediately, contact social services, and ensure Amara was placed in proper care. But something stopped him from rushing into action. Maybe it was the fear that involving too many people too soon might scare her away. Or maybe it was the realization that this girl needed more than just a roof over her head. She needed someone to believe in her when the world had turned its back. For now, all he could do was sit beside her, offering what little comfort he could. And as they sat together under the flickering street lamp, two strangers bound by circumstance, Marcus felt a spark of hope ignite within him, a hope that maybe, just maybe, he could make a difference in this girl's life. The next few nights became a quiet routine between Amara and Marcus. After their first encounter, Marcus made it a point to visit Lincoln Park during his late-night patrols. Each time he brought something small, a sandwich from the corner deli, a fresh bottle of water, or even a warm pair of socks he picked up at a thrift store. At first, Amara remained guarded, unsure if she could trust this man in uniform who seemed so different from everyone else she'd met on the streets. But as the days passed, her defenses began to crumble. One evening, Marcus found Amara sitting on the jungle gym instead of beneath the swings. She looked up when she heard his footsteps, her expression softening slightly when she recognized him. "Hey," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hey yourself," Marcus replied with a gentle smile. He held up a brown paper. "Bang. I brought dinner tonight. Chicken sandwich okay?" Amara nodded, sliding down from the jungle gym to join him on the ground. As they ate together under the dim glow of the street lamp, Marcus noticed how carefully she handled the food, savoring each bite as though it might be her last meal. It broke his heart all over again, but he didn't let it show. Instead, he tried to keep the conversation light. "So do you come here every day?" he asked casually. She shrugged. "Mostly. Sometimes I walk around town. People don't notice me much." Marcus frowned at that, his chest tightening. "You shouldn't have to disappear to survive, Amara. You deserve better than this." Her gaze dropped to the ground, her fingers fidgeting with the edge of the paper bag. "It's not like I have a choice." "You always have choices," Marcus said firmly, though his tone remained kind. "And I want to help you find one that doesn't involve sleeping on a playground." Amara hesitated, her eyes flickering toward him briefly before looking away again. "Why are you doing this? No one else cares." The honesty in her words struck Marcus deeply. He sighed, leaning back against the swing set post. "Maybe because I've seen too many people give up on kids like you. And maybe because I lost someone important to me a long time ago. Helping you feels like a way to make things right, for both of us." His admission hung in the air between them, raw and unfiltered. For the first time, Amara saw vulnerability in the officer's face, lines of pain etched into his features, shadows of grief lingering behind his eyes. She realized then that he wasn't just trying to fix her life, he was searching for redemption in his own. Over the next few nights, their conversations grew longer and more personal. Amara slowly opened up about her mother, the woman who had once been her entire world but disappeared without explanation. She talked about the dreams she wrote in her notebook, stories of places she hoped to visit someday. In return, Marcus shared bits of his own life, his late wife, his estranged relationship with his daughter, and the emptiness he felt since losing them both. One chilly night, as they sat side by side on the cold metal bench, Amara pulled out her notebook and handed it to him. "Here," she said shyly. "You can read it if you want." Marcus took the worn-out book carefully, flipping through its pages filled with scribbles and sketches. He smiled at the colorful drawings of castles and beaches, the messy handwriting describing adventures in faraway lands. "These are amazing. Amara, you're really talented." Her cheeks flushed with pride, but she quickly looked away. "They're just dreams. They'll never happen." "Don't say that," Marcus said firmly. "Dreams are what keep us going, even when things seem impossible. Trust me, I know." That night marked a turning point in their bond. Amara began to see Marcus not just as a kind stranger, but as someone who truly believed in her. And Marcus, in turn, found purpose in protecting this fragile young girl who reminded him so much of his own daughter. But neither of them knew that their newfound connection was about to be tested. Change was coming, whether they were ready for it or not. The fragile piece Amara and Marcus had built began to unravel one rainy evening. It started with a sudden downpour that drenched the park, forcing Amara to take shelter under the small pavilion near the playground. Marcus arrived later than usual, his patrol car splashing through puddles as he pulled into the lot. When he saw her huddled in the corner of the pavilion, shivering despite wrapping herself tightly in her thin blanket, his heart sank. "Amara," he called out, rushing toward her with an umbrella in hand. "Are you okay?" She looked up at him, her dark eyes wide with fear. I don't know what to do. It's too wet to stay here tonight." Marcus crouched beside her, shielding her from the rain with the umbrella. "You can't stay out here like this. Come with me. We'll figure something out." Amara hesitated, her hands clutching the edges of her blanket. "Where would we go? I don't have anywhere else." "You're right. You don't," Marcus admitted gently. "But I do. My house isn't far from here. You can stay there for the night, just until the storm passes." Her eyes widened further, suspicion mixing with uncertainty. "Why would you let me come to your house? What if someone finds out?" "No one will find out. Marcus assured her, his voice steady and calm. And even if they did, it wouldn't matter. What matters is keeping you safe tonight. After a long pause, Amara nodded reluctantly. Okay. Marcus guided her to his patrol car, opening the door so she could climb inside. As they drove, through the rain-soaked streets, neither spoke. Amara stared out the window, watching the droplets race each other down the glass. She felt a strange mix of relief and anxiety, relieved to finally be warm and dry, but anxious about stepping into unfamiliar territory. When they arrived at Marcus's modest home, he led her inside and handed her a towel to dry off. The living room was simple but cozy, with framed photos on the walls and a soft rug covering the hardwood floor. Amara noticed pictures of a smiling woman and a younger girl who looked vaguely familiar. "That's my wife, Sarah," Marcus explained, noticing her gaze. "And our daughter, Mia. They're not here anymore, but this place still feels like home." Amara nodded silently, unsure how to respond. For the first time, she realized how much pain Marcus carried beneath his quiet exterior. He wasn't just helping her. He was trying to heal himself too. Later that night, after Marcus made her a warm meal and gave her fresh clothes to wear, Amara settled onto the couch. Despite the comfort of the soft blankets and the sound of rain, tapping against the window, sleep eluded her. Her mind raced with questions. Was this real? Could she trust him completely? And most importantly, what happened next? Meanwhile, Marcus sat in the kitchen, staring at his phone. He knew he couldn't keep Amara hidden forever. Sooner or later, he'd have to involve social services, and the thought terrified him. What if they took her away to a foster home where no one understood her? What if she ended up back on the streets? As the storm raged outside, Marcus wrestled with his conscience. Protecting Amara meant breaking the rules, but following protocol might mean losing her trust forever. Either way, the decision weighed heavily on him. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Startled, Marcus rose to answer it, his heart pounding. Standing on the porch was a colleague from the precinct, Officer Daniels, holding a file folder. "Got a tip about a kid sleeping in Lincoln Park," Daniels said grimly. "Thought you should know, it's part of your patrol area." Marcus froze, his mind racing. He glanced back toward the living room where Amara lay curled up on the couch. One wrong move and everything would fall apart. "What are you going to do?" Daniels asked, raising an eyebrow. Marcus took a deep breath, steeling himself for what came next. "I'm going to do what's right. For her." Officer Daniels stepped closer, his sharp eyes narrowing as he studied Marcus's face. "What do you mean, what's right?" "You know protocol, Marcus. If there's a kid out there sleeping rough, we report it to Child Protective Services immediately. No exceptions." Marcus clenched his fists at his sides, his jaw tightening. He glanced back toward the living room again, where Amara lay asleep on the couch, her small frame barely visible beneath the blanket. She looked peaceful for once, free from the weight of survival that had crushed her spirit for so long. The thought of dragging her into the cold, impersonal system filled him with dread. "I'm aware of protocol," Marcus said finally, his voice low but firm. "But I also know what happens when kids like her get shuffled through the system. They're treated like cases instead of people. I've seen it too many times, kids bouncing from one foster home to another, never finding stability or trust. That's not justice, it's failure." Daniels crossed his arms, his expression hardening. "So what are you saying? You think breaking the rules is better? Keeping her here without reporting it? Do you realize how much trouble you'd be in if anyone found out?" "Yes," Marcus replied without hesitation. "I know exactly what I'm risking. But tell me this. Would you rather follow the rules and send her back to a life she can't survive, or take a chance on giving her something real?" For a moment, Daniels didn't respond. He shifted uncomfortably, glancing past Marcus toward the living room before turning his gaze back. "This isn't just about her, Marcus. It's about you too. You've been carrying around guilt ever since Sarah passed away. Are you sure this isn't some kind of redemption mission for yourself?" The question hit its mark, cutting deep. Marcus flinched but didn't back down. "Maybe it is," he admitted quietly. "But does that make it wrong? Maybe helping her helps both of us heal. All I know is that I can't stand by and watch another kid suffer because the system failed them. Daniel sighed, running a hand over his face. You're walking a dangerous line, Marcus. One misstep and your career and hers could go up in flames. I understand the risks, Marcus said firmly. But I need you to trust me. Just give me a little more time. Let me find a way to help her properly, to make sure she ends up somewhere safe, somewhere she belongs. Daniels hesitated, clearly torn. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he nodded reluctantly. Fine. But you don't have long, Marcus. A few days at most. After that, I'll have no choice but to report this. Relief washed over Marcus, though it was fleeting. As Daniels turned to leave, Marcus closed the door behind him and leaned against it, exhaling deeply. His heart was still racing, but he knew he'd made the right call, for now. When he returned to the living room, Amara was awake, sitting upright on the couch with wide, frightened eyes. Who was that? She asked softly, her voice trembling. That was Officer Daniels, Marcus explained, kneeling beside her. He knows about you, but he's agreed to give us a little more time. We're going to figure this out together, okay? I promise I won't let anything bad happen to you. Tears welled up in Amara's eyes, spilling down her cheeks. Why are you doing all this for me? I don't even know you. Marcus reached out, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Because everyone deserves someone who believes in them, even when they don't believe in themselves. And because I see pieces of my own daughter in you, I couldn't save her from growing apart, but maybe I can save you. Amara sniffled, wiping her tears with the edge of the blanket. For the first time in months, she felt a flicker of hope, a fragile, delicate thing, but hope nonetheless. Over the next 2 days, Marcus worked tirelessly to find a solution. He reached out to trusted contacts within social services, explaining Amara's situation and pleading for discretion. He visited local shelters, searching for a temporary placement that wouldn't overwhelm her. Every step was fraught with uncertainty, but he refused to give up. On the third night, as they sat together in the quiet warmth of his home, Marcus turned to Amara with a small, hopeful smile. I think I've found somewhere you might like, he said softly. It's not perfect, but it's a start. Are you ready to take the next step? Amara stared at him, her heart pounding. She didn't know what lay ahead, but for the first time she felt brave enough to try. The next morning, Marcus and Amara stood outside a small, cozy house nestled at the edge of town. The building was painted a warm yellow with white shutters, and flower boxes filled with vibrant blooms lined the windowsills. It belonged to Mrs. Evelyn Harper, a retired schoolteacher who had agreed to take in foster children temporarily while they transitioned into more permanent placements. Marcus had spent hours speaking with her, ensuring she understood Amara's situation and promising to stay involved in her life as much as possible. This is it, Marcus said softly, turning to look at Amara. She clutched her backpack tightly, her knuckles white against the worn fabric. Her eyes darted nervously between him and the house, uncertainty written all over her face. What if she doesn't like me? Amara whispered, her voice barely audible. Marcus crouched down, so he was eye level with her, his expression gentle but firm. Evelyn isn't like other people, Amara. She's kind, patient, and she cares about kids like you. And even if things don't work out perfectly right away, I'll still be here for you. You're not alone anymore. Amara nodded slowly, though. Fear still lingered in her eyes. Taking a deep breath, she followed Marcus up the front steps. Before he could knock, the door swung open, revealing a woman with silver hair tied neatly in a bun and a welcoming smile that softened the lines on her face. You must be Amara, Evelyn said warmly, stepping aside to let them in. And you're Officer Hayes, correct? Please come in. The interior of the house was just as inviting as the exterior. Sunlight streamed through the windows, casting golden hues across the wooden floors. A faint scent of lavender drifted through the air, mingling with the aroma of freshly baked cookies wafting from the kitchen. Despite herself, Amara felt a flicker of curiosity replace some of her apprehension. "I made these earlier," Evelyn said, gesturing toward a plate of chocolate chip cookies on the dining table. "Help yourself, dear. They're best when they're still warm." Amara hesitated, glancing at Marcus for reassurance. He gave her an encouraging nod, and after a moment she reached for a cookie. As she bit into it, her shoulders relaxed slightly, the sweetness melting away some of her tension. While Amara nibbled on the cookie, Evelyn led Marcus into the living room to discuss logistics. "I know this is a temporary arrangement," Evelyn began, her tone thoughtful, "but I want Amara to feel safe here. I'll make sure she has everything she needs: clothes, food, books, whatever helps her settle in." Marcus nodded gratefully. "Thank you, Evelyn. More than anything, she needs stability, someone who can show her that the world isn't always cruel." Evelyn smiled sadly. "No child should ever think that. Don't worry. I'll take good care of her." Back in the kitchen, Amara sat quietly, her gaze wandering around the room. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to imagine what life might be like in a place like this. There were no swings swaying in the wind, no cold metal beneath her back, no fear of being discovered by strangers. Just warmth, light, and the promise of kindness. When Marcus returned, he found her staring out the window, lost in thought. Kneeling beside her chair, he placed a hand on her shoulder. "How are you feeling?" She turned to look at him, her dark eyes shining with unshed tears. "I'm scared," she admitted softly. "But I think I can do this." Marcus's heart swelled with pride and relief. "You're stronger than you think, Amara. And remember, you're not doing this alone. I'll check in on you whenever I can, okay? This isn't goodbye." Amara nodded, blinking back her tears. "Okay." As Marcus prepared to leave, Evelyn walked him to the door. "Take care of yourself, Officer Hayes," she said kindly. "You've done something remarkable for her, and for yourself." Outside, Marcus paused on the porch, watching as Amara peeked shyly through the curtains. Though part of him ached to stay, he knew she needed space to grow and heal. With one last wave, he climbed into his patrol car and drove away, his heart heavy but hopeful. For Amara, a new chapter was beginning. One filled with challenges, yes, but also possibilities. And for Marcus, the weight of guilt he'd carried for so long began to lift, replaced by the knowledge that he had made a difference in someone's life. Weeks passed, and Amara slowly began to adjust to her new life with Evelyn. The retired schoolteacher proved to be as kind and patient as Marcus had promised, treating Amara not like a burden but like a cherished guest in her home. Every morning, Evelyn would wake her with a gentle knock on the door, leaving fresh clothes and a warm cup of cocoa outside if Amara wasn't ready to face the day just yet. She never pushed too hard or asked too many questions, giving Amara the space she needed to heal at her own pace. At first, Amara remained cautious, keeping her emotions locked away behind walls built from months of hardship. But Evelyn's quiet persistence began to chip away at those defenses. One evening, while baking cookies together in the cozy kitchen, Amara accidentally dropped an egg on the floor. Instead of scolding her, Evelyn simply laughed and handed her another one. "Mistakes happen," she said with a wink. "That's how we learn." It was moments like these that started to mend Amara's broken spirit. Slowly, she began to trust again, not just Evelyn, but herself. She started sketching more in her notebook, filling its pages with colorful drawings of sunlit beaches and towering castles. Sometimes, she even read aloud snippets of her stories to Evelyn, who listened intently and praised her creativity. For the first time in years, Amara felt seen and valued for who she truly was. Meanwhile, Marcus kept his promise to stay involved in her life. He visited regularly, bringing small gifts like art supplies or books he thought she'd enjoy. During their visits, they talked about everything: her dreams, her fears, and the progress she was making in school. To Amara's surprise, Evelyn had enrolled her in a local middle school, where she quickly discovered a love for writing and storytelling. Her teachers noticed her talent and encouraged her to enter a creative writing contest, a challenge Amara accepted with nervous excitement. One chilly Saturday afternoon, Marcus arrived at Evelyn's house carrying a wrapped package under his arm. When Amara opened it, she gasped in delight. Inside was a brand new leather-bound journal, its cover embossed with gold letters spelling out her name, Amara. Tears welled up in her eyes as she hugged the book to her chest. "I thought you might need something sturdier than your old notebook," Marcus said with a grin. "You've got big dreams to write down, don't you?" "Thank you," Amara whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I don't know what I'd do without you." Marcus's throat tightened, but he managed a soft smile. "You'll never have to find out. You're stronger than you think, Amara, and no matter where life takes you, I'll always be here if you need me." Their bond had grown deeper over time, transforming from a chance encounter into something far more meaningful. Through helping Amara, Marcus had found a way to ease his own pain. He still missed his late wife and daughter, but now he carried their memories with him differently, as reminders of love and hope rather than loss. As spring approached, Amara received news that brought both joy and anxiety. She had won second place in the creative writing contest. Standing on stage at the awards ceremony, clutching her certificate, she scanned the audience until her eyes landed on Marcus and Evelyn, sitting side by side and cheering loudly. Their pride radiated across the room, filling her with courage she hadn't known she possessed. That night, as they celebrated with pizza and laughter around Evelyn's dining table, Amara realized something profound. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was thriving. And though her journey wasn't over, she finally believed she could face whatever lay ahead, with people who cared deeply by her side. For Marcus, watching Amara blossom reinforced his belief in second chances, not just for others, but for himself. Together, they had proven that even in a world full of hardship, kindness, and connection could light the darkest paths.